salary of a private was
$50 a month.
$50 a month.
Plus jump pay.
And jump pay would be what?
$50 a month.
$50 a month. All right.
Officers got 100, which we yelped about.
Because you jumped the same as they, or they jumped the same as you.
They did the same thing we did, and they got double.
Well, we'll go on.
Okay.
So you got on the ferry boat now?
Got on the ferry, and got down and saw the skyline of New York. And, well, there were half a dozen of us from the city there, and they put us up on a big boat. It was the Ile-de-France. Oh. We went over on the Ile-de-France.
Of course, that was all camouflaged by this time with gray paint or whatever.
Well, whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Were you escorted over, you know?
No, we went alone.
I understand because of the speed of those liners that...
That's right.
That they could outrun
no convoy, because she was fast enough to outrace any submarine.
Did it have any... Well, I know it's hard because you're...
Well, it had naval guns on it, you know, but...
nothing that's... All right. So how was it all paratroopers or everybody and his brother on there going over?
Oh, no. I think that there were 22,000 of us on the boat.
How many?
22,000. Well, they stacked us like cattle. I was on E deck, 5 high.
Now,
they had the berths 5 high.
I went on one of those general ships and I got so seasick. How did, I mean, it was a small, you know.
No, there was nothing.
There was no seasickness with that thing.
Except, like on a day out, would stop at 2:30 in the morning, dead in the water. And when you're used to the screw turning continuously and hearing the throb, I jumped up.
Yeah.
I jumped up, grabbed my boots, put them around my neck, and ran up topside.
Do you know why they stopped to this day?
They said there might have been a submarine around. They weren't sure. They thought they picked something up on sonar. But just to make sure, that's what they did.
They wanted to listen then.
Right. About an hour and a half later, they started again, and that was it.
All right, so...
Well, we landed in Africa.
Where in Africa? Casablanca? Casablanca, right.
Yeah.
Was that I mean, you know, is that a large sea harbor? I mean...
Beautiful harbor.
Beautiful harbor.
But there were a lot of sunken ships around.
Were there?
Yeah, a lot of sunken ships. But everywhere you looked, you saw naval ships and transports and everything else. They were starting because this was...
what's the date on it, Bob?
I think it's...
Oh, again, roughly, it's 43...
The beginning of June of 43.
43.
Yeah, they were starting to accumulate everything, and they were trying to throw off the Germans as to where the invasion was going to be.
The invasion of so-called Fortress Europe.
Right.
Right.
Sicily, Sardinia, Greece, Crete, whatever. They didn't know, but of course they knew already. It had been picked. Well, we got there, and they assigned us to units. And of course, all right, they read your name off the sheet, and they already had our service records and everything else. And I was assigned to Company G, 505th Parachute Infantry. And I got up there the next morning.
Now this is a base outside of Casablanca, or is it already inland away?
No, it was inland about 200 miles, 250 miles, maybe more.
Did you go by what?
By truck, yeah. Anyway, we got to the regiment, and of course the regiment was out training already for the day, so they took us to our company areas and told us what to do, report to the supply sergeant, get equipment, etc. That night when the guys came in, they said, "Hey, we're being picked, don't worry about it. You're here today, you're gone tomorrow, life is sweet and short, don't worry."
Giving you a hard time.
That's right, that was the greeting. Well, at that time, I was a PFC, and we bounced around. They gave us 2 days to get acclimated and everything else, to the heat of the desert and the cold of the nights. And then we started training. I think we did 3 practice jumps in 2 weeks before it started. We had some casualties on the jump. A couple of the boys got killed. A couple of them landed on some of these cactus trees that they had there with long spear leaves that went right through their bodies, and there was nothing we could do about saving them. And that was the indoctrination to death, more or less.
And of course, you're young people, and that's...
Yeah, and of course, you looked at it and you shrugged and you said, well, there for the grace of God go I, and that was it. Made me think, though, and I really considered quitting at that point. But when they said I would be assigned to a glider regiment, and having ridden in a glider back in the States, that like veered me back to the main source again.
Lesser of two evils.
That's right. Well,
of course, rumors are all over.
Rumors.
I mean, that's typical in war and
that's
any
right.
armed
The
force.
rumors were unreal. Well, the truth is we got down to 3 days before the invasion, or 4 days. The invasion force of Montgomery's army and Patton's army were already at sea. We were still in Africa. But we were going to spearhead the invasion. We were going to be a reinforced regimental combat team led by Colonel Gavin, who was my regimental commander. At that time, he was still a colonel. Of course, they fit us into different squads and platoons. We were replacements for guys that got sick or whatever, and they built up the regiment, whereas a normal complement of a regiment would be 3,000 men. They built it up to over 4,000 men, because they allowed for 35% casualties on the jump. 3 days before we were told we were gone. That was more food for thought. I think that's really the first time in my life that I looked for solace with God. I get melancholy when I think about it.
Well, it's a young person, and it's, well, anyone, of course, when you realize that that's...
It was really, I don't know, a soul-searching thought as to what I had done right in my life up to that point and what I had done wrong. And of course, you went to see the chaplain the next day.
And everyone, would you say that, Bob, that everyone is going through some type of...
some type
of...
And on the night of the invasion, it was pitch dark out. We were already at the airfield, and we loaded on the planes. And Gavin was in the lead plane. We had our whole regiment, a battalion of artillery, engineers, all the supporting troops that would have to go with a regimental combat team. And they gave us a battalion from the 504th Parachute Infantry to reinforce us above, just in case. And we set out.
And you set out from where?
From Africa to Sicily.
Okay. And where were you kind of in Africa? Were you in Tunisia at the time?
Yeah,
we were in Tunisia.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, probably, was it old German or French air base, do you know, or did you have your own?
It was controlled by us already.
Yeah, but I mean, was it an old base, or was it kind of a brand new thing?
Oh no, everything was Quonset huts, steel matting on the runways.
I mean, the field itself.
I don't know.
Oh, I just wanted.
I don't know.
I just wanted if it was.
It was the first time that I was at that field, so I couldn't tell you. It was nighttime.
Oh, it was nighttime.
Yeah,
of course.
I couldn't tell you anything.
What it was. So
they brought us there. We got there late evening by truck.
And everything was hustle.
Everything. They had us out by the plane 6 hours before we had to board the plane.
Yeah, well,
it was hurry up and wait again.
In this case, I can understand that things had to go right.
Well, of course, I broke my rifle down maybe 20 times, cleaned it, field stripped it, put it back together again, broke it down again, made sure the trigger mechanism was working right, the bolt was in straight. You know, it was everything. Then all of a sudden, the company commander came up to me and he said, Miller, I understand that you're a qualified expert with the BAR.
Now, what's a BAR?
Browning automatic rifle. It was a weapon that was used in World War I. It fired, if you could feed it fast enough, fired faster than a machine gun. Because on automatic, it would tend to fire up, so you had to keep your hand down on the top of the barrel to hold it down. Anyway, I wound up not with the M1, but with a BAR for that. And of course, I had a gun bearer with me who carried enough ammunition magazines beside his own load, plus my load of ammunition to use.
How long a flight from the air base to the drop over Sicily?
I would imagine, well, we flew a dog leg.
What? Go ahead.
All right, we flew up north straight, and then we made a right-hand turn to surprise them. But they knew we were coming anyway. Anyway, our intelligence was bad again for a change, and they had one of the best German Panzer divisions in the German army there.
And they were waiting.
But we didn't suffer the casualties from the Germans. We
So
suffered it from our own Navy. They shot down about 25 of our planes.
Our Navy did?
Our Navy.
Just plain nervousness, do you think, Bob?
I'm
just
trigger
nervous.
happy. Trigger happy.
Where did you land in Sicily?
We landed about on the southwest shore, right outside of the town, Bulge.
But far from Salerno?
Oh yeah, we were like...
You were across the whole Sicily. There was going to be fighting
Sicily.
Across all Sicily.
Yeah, we were going to fight our way across.
So you
But we
landed...
got there before Montgomery.
We won't go into that. So the casualty, I mean, any death, of course.
The casualties on the jump were as they anticipated, but it was stupidity. But after that, all our aircraft, instead of just having the blue star, the white star and a blue ball, had the bar across it.
Which meant
that it was American aircraft. It was recognition. And then we started to paint white stripes on the fuselage and white stripes on the wings so that the Navy or anybody else shooting wouldn't get trigger happy again.
Right.
But that was a lesson.
A bitter one. But
It did.
Now, you jumped, and let's take your own personal...
Well, my squad landed maybe 3 miles scattered all over the area.
And how would one get together? What was the
Well,
way one...
Well, you had passwords, but everybody had a compass. And you have to learn to use the compass. If you can't use a compass, you're not going to make out as a paratrooper behind enemy lines. And everybody had a map. The map was to scale, and we had to get right outside to the northeast corner of the town, and every company had its own perimeter around the town, because now the ground forces were going to start to come in.
All right. And they were landing on the coast, was that...
They were landing on the coast.
Had they landed yet?
No. We were there about 3 hours before they started to land.
Let's take again with your own, there you've come down. Was your landing decent?
Yeah.
Your own landing?
The landing was decent. The field was rocky. There were rocks all over the field.
What time did you land? Was it dawn yet? Or
no, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning.
So it was
just about starting to get gray.
And this is just what they would want.
That's
just
right.
So that you could see a little
Yeah.
bit. Were you with other paratroopers, or were they some distance away, your people? In other words,
No. Our regiment wound up pretty decent.
So you could
Pretty
go as a
decent.
unit,
Yeah.
over towards...
Because you started to group up squads into platoons, and we eventually all hooked up. Our battalion was completely hooked up.
Your first contact with the enemy?
Was a small arms firefight, which we weren't involved in. There was another company that was involved in.
Upon landing?
After we started to assemble to close on the town.
Oh.
Our job was to close the valve so they couldn't make their way north.
No,
If they wanted to break out. That's right, to block the town.
Right.
It was easy. We took the town.
Well, German and Italian soldiers, or just German?
Both.
They were both?
Both. There were fairly decent Italian soldiers there. Fairly decent. They had a very good officer in command. A very good officer. And he knew his men would fight. Whether they wanted to fight or not, that's a different story. Yeah.
So there was a difficult firefight then?
Yeah, it was a small arms firefight, which is a rarity. Because it's strictly artillery and mortars and stuff like that and aerial bombardment.
Then they were cut off, and then they did surrender.
We cut off the road. Well, the Germans pushed towards shore and made a swinging motion to get behind us, at which time we got involved, but of course it was the afternoon already of that day. And you could see everything, and by then we had all our mortars set up, bazookas set up in a perimeter. We had a fire alley. Every gun was placed exactly the way it was written in a textbook.